Russell Wilson. Good Lord. Just does not stop with that guy. All right, here we go. We'll let everything come up to speed for just a second here. And away we go. What is up, Broncos country? It's Wednesday night, which means it's time for MHI. And look who's back. Back again. Thomas Hall, tell a friend. What's up, Tom? You are officially landed somewhere in Broncos country. You're no longer on the road. We're starting a new chapter in a new undisclosed location. How we doing?
Yeah, it was quite an ordeal getting across the country, man. Between freak snowstorms, tornado watches, possible flood risks, we ended up being 3 or 4 days later than we wanted to be getting across the country, but we made it. And now I'm back ready to do the show. I'm excited. It seems like forever, but I only missed 1 week. So
yeah, no, it was cool. DVA got to come on here and we chopped it up last week. It was fun to yell at somebody different. But no, man, check out Dylan's show with Ron White every Saturday night, OBV, 6 p.m. Mountain. No, I'm happy to have you back, man. We're just 2 weeks away from the draft. Things are starting to really ramp up here. Yeah. And this is kind of the big calm before the storm, if you will. And it's the season of lies. It's mock draft season. We've got the experts debating who the Broncos are going to take. We've got the local guys debating who the Broncos are going to take. We're going to get into all of that and more, including Mel Kiper Jr. That's right. The Godfather, right? The Godfather of the draft. Everyone's got an opinion about Mel Kiper. You can't take that away from him, at least. ESPN's very own Mel Kiper Jr. released his latest mock draft, and Broncos country might be scratching their heads just a little bit. We'll get into that and more. But before we do, let's say what's up to our friends in the chat who join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain. And there he is, Papa Bear. What's up, David? $2 super. Hello, Broncos country. Luke, Tom, and Deacon Scott. David, hopefully you're doing well, man. I want to know, which quarterback do you want in the first round, David? Because I'm feeling really greedy, Tom, very greedy. I want guys that may not be within striking distance. I like Jaden Daniels. I like J.J. McCarthy. Who the hell doesn't at this point, right, Tom? Right. I mean, the bottom line is the Broncos are sitting at number 12. They have a decision they need to make. Are they going to move up, and who's it going to be for?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to move up at this point if they want one of the top guys. It's just there's really, I mean, not only are there quarterback needy teams ahead of them, there's other quarterback needy teams that are willing to trade up from what it sounds like to go get somebody. So for me, I mean, if they're really going to go all in on a quarterback, go all in, go get the guy you want, and then don't fret about it.
And David's calling his shot. I love it. Thank you for answering the question right away, Papa Bear. He's saying J.J. McCarthy. I'm all in, and it seems like his stock is rising. It's always interesting when you talk about risers and fallers 2 weeks before the draft, because it feels like every year something happens, Tom, around draft day, whether guys get in trouble, right? We're just seeing prospects getting arrested for DUIs still. Right. Twitter, guys get Twitter responses unearthed from 10, 15 years ago, right? I mean, they are just anything and everything could happen before the draft. It's not set in stone, the first 3 picks. I thought they were. I thought the first 3 picks were pretty set in stone last month. Boy, can things change quickly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, the first 3 picks, right? I mean, what if someone says, you know what, I'd rather take the draft picks and wait on the quarterback, you know? That could shake things up too. You never know. Like, I guess the first 3 picks are really going to determine the path the Broncos have to get to a quarterback, right? I mean, I think those first 3 picks are going to determine whether or not the Broncos can trade up and get somebody they want, or if they're going to be on the outside looking in, saying, "Well, we didn't get a quarterback that we wanted, and we're going to trade back or we're going to get one in the 3rd round and just live with it." I think that's what we're looking at right now.
Well, Tom, you've told me Sean Payton's had some history when it comes to the draft with trades, and we'll get into that and more. But before we do, let's say what's up to Mike Reno. What's up, man? Great to catch a live show. It's good to see you, Luke, Tom, and Scott. Mike, it is great to have you. Thank you so much for joining on your Wednesday night, man. And if you guys can't join us live, that's all right. Head on over to Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, Twitch. You can find us there and listen at your convenience. Here's the thing, Tom. I've been pretty stout and bullish in my approach that anything less than a first-round quarterback would be a disappointment for Broncos country. I say that, but then again, I run polls at Luke Patterson LP over on X, and I'm asking Broncos country straight up, do you think Denver should trade up for a quarterback? More times than not, they're saying no. It's expensive. It's too much. It could set you back even further. The same arguments that you have proposed to me, the guy that's just desperate and willing to reach, right? You've been saying this for a long time, Tom. Sean Payton isn't exactly conservative when it comes to the NFL draft. And these are your statistics that you uncovered, so I want to give you credit. 21 total trades up for Sean Payton as a head coach in the NFL. That's 5 trades up in the first round, 0 trades back in the first round. So when it comes to the first round, Sean is pretty stingy. He wants to move up, not back.
Yeah, absolutely. And also there's only 6 times, I believe, if I remember correctly, that he even traded back in the entire draft.
Right.
So he's aggressive. He's going to go after, but that's why I don't know if they can go up and get the guy they want. And that's why I say the first 3 picks are really going to determine whether or not he is super aggressive to go up. So I think how that unfolds, and there's always surprises. Like people are, they are all, they're going to get the first 3 picks are going to be quarterbacks, and depending on who trades up or whatever. But there's been surprises before where somebody's like, no, we're not taking a quarterback, we're taking an edge rusher up here, or we're taking an offensive tackle, and that shifts everything around. So I'm with you though. There needs to be some sort of enthusiasm in Broncos country. And if the Broncos stand pat at 12 and take an offensive tackle and don't get a quarterback, there's no enthusiasm because they haven't done anything else. I mean, we're sitting with Jarrett Stidham. That's not exciting. And I know it's about winning football games, and Jarrett Stidham's not going to win many football games, but there's also a excitement needed to get fans in the seats because it's not like they were winning recently. It's been 7 years since they've won anything. So they need to generate some sort of excitement for fans. And you're right. First round quarterback does that.
You're forgetting about a quarterback, Tom, on this team right now. Gucci Danucci, as my guy DVA said last week on these airwaves. I was laughing. I told him I'm stealing that. That's all Ben has, right? When you look at Ben DiNucci, right? He's got a cool nickname, Gucci DiNucci. Yeah, it's rough, right? We were out there at training camp last year. We watched all 3 quarterbacks struggle. Jarrett Stidham cannot be the plan. Michael Ronquillo executing his plan of support, always getting our back here on MHI and MHH in general. Good evening, Luke and Thomas on the Mile High Insiders, and go Broncos. Thank you, Michael. I need you to do some wheeling and dealing out there in Arizona for us, Mike. I need the Cardinals to make sure they're willing to give Sean Payton a deal. Man, the Cardinals, coach even talked about that, right? At the league meetings just a month ago, saying, yeah, I'm sure the Cardinals are feeling pretty sweet right now in the spot that they're in. You head on over to social media, you look at the reports. It seems like every day, Tom, you hear about the Vikings. The Vikings are going to make a huge splash. They're moving up. Then you hear there could potentially be a mystery team in the wings looking to move up, other than just the quarterback needy teams that are already 1 through 10. It's the season of lies for a reason. But one thing I just can't understand, I wanted to run it past you. If Sean Payton is so conservative when it comes to the NFL draft, or not conservative, rather, right? He's not conservative. He doesn't trade back in the first round. He never has. Why are folks suggesting that he's going to trade back and still land a quarterback like Bo Nix?
Well, mostly because it's speculation, because the Broncos are, they don't have a lot of picks. But if you think history repeats itself, which it often does, and that's what stats and a lot of analysis is all about, is looking at what happened and trying to predict what's going to happen in the future. He's not going to trade back. It's Sean Payton's show. It's not George Payton's show. George Payton running the show, absolutely trading back, but that's not going to happen this year.
George.
So I think it's one of those. It's like a wishful thinking. We need to get more draft picks, so we should trade back, kind of thing. And you know what? I'm usually with that mentality, but the problem is the Broncos cannot afford to trade back for two reasons. One, they need a quarterback desperately. They need to go out and make a big swing. And two, they have so many okay players and no one like incredible elite impact player, right? And that's it. And they need that in order to win football games. So if they trade back, you're taking yourself out of a probability of getting one of those impact players. They happen more often in the first round than any other round, especially early. There's busts, don't get me wrong, but if you trade back, then you're just getting more of a chance of getting another guy that can start but not really making an elite level impact. So that's why I think Sean Payton's not going to trade back. He's either going to stand pat, depending on how it falls, or move up.
Here's what I don't like about the Bo Nix thing is you explained it great. You're looking for value, right? Well, last I checked, Sean Payton doesn't have to shop for value. He's not a value shopper. He's not in the $1, $2 bin like we all are. Okay.
Right.
This is the same man, literally. This is the same man who is represented by Jordan. He wears Jordans, custom Sean Payton Jordans, one and done, and then he's out. You're not telling me that he's going to go value shopping for a quarterback and just hoping to get whatever's left over at the end of the first or even remain pat at 12. Forget my opinion. Forget your opinion. I think stats and history are telling us, and Sean Payton himself, right? He's you love him, you like him, whatever. He's unapologetically himself. He does not care about anyone's opinion. And making this choice for a quarterback, there's only one way, Tom.
Yeah.
It's up. And he's going to trade up and get one.
And on top of it, the only reason I would say that they could trade back is if the draft falls completely the opposite way than they were hoping. Like everybody that they wanted to get, they couldn't make a trade, and everybody else is taken that they liked, then okay, I could see it. That's probably not going to happen, most likely, but I think based on what I've seen, he's probably going to trade up to try and go get a quarterback. He probably likes two of them out of the six that are projected in the first round or rumored, and he's going to try and go get one of them.
Well, what's the godfather of the draft say? ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr., right? You can find Mel Kiper Jr. and Todd McShay yelling at each other every April. That's coming up right around the corner in less than 2 weeks. Well, that mock draft by ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr. was just released today, and Chad Jensen wrote an article about it over at milehighhuddle.com highlighting the Godfather's analysis, saying, quote, "I thought hard and long about giving the Broncos quarterback Bo Nix, but I've talked myself out of it. I just don't think that Nix is a first-round signal caller. I have a round 2 grade on him based on everything I've seen on tape. Instead of a quarterback, instead of trading up, instead of trading back and trying to get value, Mel Kiper Jr. pegs the Denver Broncos as drafting Toledo cornerback Quinion Mitchell. Buzzkill?"
Well, I don't see the point. I mean, the problem wasn't necessarily with the Broncos back end. They've got Pat Surtain. Unless they trade him, then maybe that's an opportunity to grab a corner. They've got up and coming Jaquan McMillan. He seems to be coming around. And as soon as they replaced
Riley Moss,
things got better. I mean, I can see it would be nice to have if they had elite players on the front seven, but they don't. I mean, I could see, okay, they don't want to take Bo Nix there, fine. But to give them a corner as opposed to an offensive tackle or an elite edge rusher or an elite interior pass rusher, that's where he lost me. Is the choice that he made that lost me, because they are desperate for defensive line and edge rush. Elite
bless
players.
America, Tom. This move would be horrible. And I love what my guy Doug, Broncos Country, is reacting in the chat too. And I absolutely love it. Doug's coming in here. He's like, there's no way that's happening. George Payton's not making these picks. No. And we know cornerback is George Payton's favorite position of all time, right? It saved his job. Thank you to Pat Surtain. He's always talking. Anytime you talk to George, he's at the press conference. You look it up. Cornerback is a premium position in the NFL. You can't have enough of them. So, yeah, he's going to draft some. It shouldn't be in the first round. No way. What a stupid pick. William Hayes is coming up in here. Look, it's just I see. I guess I could see crazier things happening than a cornerback. But I just don't get it. I really don't. You said it best. I mean, you've got some depth. I'm curious about Riley Moss, right? I can't just annoy him because he did really nothing his rookie year. His training camp was busted with that abdominal hernia or whatever it was. But what's Riley Moss have to offer? What does some of these young bucks have to, again, Jaquan McMillan, can we start putting things together a little bit? Had a stellar breakout season last year. I want to see that. I don't know how you sell it. I just got done saying Sean Payton doesn't care about anyone's opinion. I don't see Sean Payton being thrilled to get a cornerback, an offensive play caller, a quarterback whisperer, the same guy who got rid of Russell Wilson because he knows better. And he's going to roll with Jarrett Stidham. You're picking at number 12, Sean. I mean, that's middle of the road. You're almost 500. You're not looking at a great season next year. What happens if you're in the exact same situation? You're hovering between 12 and 15, and you still need a quarterback? Then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, Mel Kiper is, like you said, you've talked to him. He started this whole kind of,
craziness,
projecting the draft kind of stuff. But look, I keep going back to Mike Mayock at the Raiders. He got out of the studio and he went and did it for real, failed miserably. So, I mean, I can write up mock drafts. I can write articles and I don't have to be right. I go on to my next article, just like Mel Kiper. He doesn't have to be right. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's where, I'm not trying to knock Mel Kiper, but like do a little research on the Broncos before saying, yeah, I'm just going to take a corner here, because there are so many other problems besides corner that would help this team at 12, players at 12 that would help this team than a cornerback.
It's almost as if Mel Kiper Jr. is responding to your segment right here. You ready? Quote, instead, Denver can look to improve a defense that ranked 30th in yards per play allowed, 5.8 last season, and pair Mitchell with Pat Surtain. Mitchell, my top-ranked cornerback, had 46 pass breakups in 4 seasons at Toledo, and he ripped off an elite 4.33 second 40-yard dash at the combine. He's ready to play early and often as a rookie, end quote. Wah, 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 wah. Right? I mean, that's tough. Yeah, it's everything you just said, Tom. Right? I mean, what? Okay, you're going to pair him with Pat Surtain. Fine. Let's see him. 6 foot, 195 pounds, a senior, right? He put up 20 reps of 225 at the comp. Pretty impressive for a cornerback, right? Don't get me wrong. He did set his school record at Toledo with those 46 pass breakups. He's a big physical corner. Does have a tendency to get beat, especially with those hip swivels. One little thing, a little twitchy on the hips that bothers me, but hey, that's being life in the cornerback of the NFL. I don't know, Tom. I'm with you. I don't know how you sell that to Broncos country. Again, you could read about this. Chad Jensen has an article, the pros, the cons. What was Mel Kiper Jr. thinking? Head on over to milehighhuddle.com and check it out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a head scratcher of a move. I get if that's the best player on the board on Mel Kiper's draft at that time, I can understand why he puts him there. But at the same time, the Broncos aren't going to, they're not going to have that same philosophy. And I just don't, I guess it could happen. Stranger things have happened, but if you can't, it doesn't matter how elite your corners are. If you can't get any pass rush and the quarterback has all day to pass, they're not going to be able to, make that big of a difference, in the covering for 5-6 seconds or whatever, it's like, it's one of those things where you just, I just don't understand it. It was, I like people to do a little bit more research, and I'm wrong. Even though I do research, I'm wrong oftentimes, but at least don't look foolish when projecting something, right? Like,
well, hey, maybe I was just thinking, like, I agree with you. It seems outlandish. It seems fool. I'm right there with you. No disrespect to the Godfather, but here's the thing. Maybe he's hedging his bets a little bit by playing this move, right? Maybe by saying you hit a prospect that's as close to can't miss in a cornerback like this guy as you can around pick number 12. Maybe that suggests that the quarterback market in the first round really is as fast and furious as we think it is. There are phone calls being made. There are teams looking to trade up, maybe two, maybe looking to move back within the top 10. Again, teams can be talked into lots of easy decisions when you're getting 4 or 5 first rounders, right? Which it seems like some of these teams are asking for. But maybe Mel Kiper's just trying to cover his bases a little bit. It makes me wonder too, because there's smoke screens all over the place. The Michael Penix Jr., it seemed like he had, I know you were on the road last week, but it seemed like he was really on the rise last week. Pro days, he's seeing these teams, interviews, all this sorts of stuff. It makes me wonder, how much is Michael Penix Jr. on the rise? Is Bo Nix really falling? Because again, they can be a second round talent. We can have different grades on them. It has no impact necessarily on when a team will select that quarterback.
Yeah, and especially a quarterback. I mean, quarterbacks and cornerbacks are kind of the most overdrafted players, in my opinion. The numbers kind of bear it out. You get all these busts because they're reaching for them. And yeah, maybe Bo Nix is a second round graded quarterback, but when teams are desperate, they throw it out. I mean, even their own grades, they're like, well, we need a quarterback anyway. We're going to go get one because we're getting him in the first round. So yeah, man, I don't know. It could be really strange. This draft could be really strange. It could go just like we all think it is, where it's like quarterback, and then another quarterback a little bit later. Or there could be two quarterbacks going, and then they sit for a while and get drafted much later. It's one of those that there's too many questions in my head about many of these quarterbacks that I feel like it's hard to predict.
Oh, well, that's what I'm going to ask you to do, what John's asking you to do. Who do you think we're going to grab with our first pick? I'll take a stab at this one, John. I think the Broncos get a deal done with the Cardinals, and it's going to cost a lot, and it's going to hurt, and we're going to pretend that it doesn't, at least on that draft night, because you are going to have your first-round quarterback, pick number 4, J.J. McCarthy, Michigan. I think Sean Payton likes this young man a lot. I think he likes him a little more than we think he does. I have no clue. It's not based on per source. I'm not hearing anything. It's just total gut feeling. I could see the Broncos doing that. I think Jaden Daniels is probably going to get selected number 2. Washington, heaven forbid, he goes 3 to New England. There's no way. I think the Broncos have a shot at getting Jaden Daniels. Maybe I'm naive in thinking they have a shot of getting J.J. McCarthy at pick number 4. Tom, what say you? We're not going to hold you to it, right? I mean, lots can change.
I mean, like I said, I can just I can be wrong and move on to my next prediction.
Yeah, that's right.
So I think it's J.J. McCarthy too. I think they're going to trade up to try and get J.J. McCarthy.
Where at?
Well, 4 is going to hurt. I think that's what they're going to have to do. I think they might have to go to 3, maybe even to get him.
You could be
but
right,
I think that's who they covet. I think that's who they want, because I don't think I think they're realistic that they can't get the top 2. So they're going to go after J.J. McCarthy. And I like J.J. McCarthy early on too. First, I like Jaden Daniels too. For as a rookie, because he can use his legs pretty well, and may not be completely polished, but he can add something as a rookie. And I think J.J. McCarthy has had enough time in a pro-style offense that they can put together a scheme for him that he can kind of play right away and be fairly effective. That's why I'm kind of like some of these other quarterbacks, I'm maybe a little more worried about taking them early because they're maybe not be very effective right away.
That's just it. I mean, like, you got to pick the right guy, but then you also have to wonder, when is it going to work out? Are you going to get lucky and have a CJ Stroud rookie phenom of a season? I mean, you hope. You can't expect that's going to be the case. It's tough, man. William James Baker coming in here from London, man. Really appreciate it. Looking at trading scenarios with maybe trading back with the Bengals. No, Sean Payton's not trading back, William. I hate to tell you this. He's just not. Thomas has run the stats. It's never happened in the first round with Sean Payton. 0 trades back. He only moves up. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Bo Nix is maybe your break glass in case of an emergency. I'm not a huge Bo Nix fan, but there are a lot of people out there, friends of mine in the scouting community, who feel in their heart of hearts that Bo Nix is truly the best fit for Sean Payton's offense. Now, I completely disagree with it. If Bo Nix got drafted to the Denver Broncos, would you be excited, Tom, or would you be lukewarm on the idea or just plain curious?
I would be curious. I mean, I think he's got a lot of tools, but I think he's got a lot of things that he has to learn. And I know he's been playing for a long time. That's another thing that worries me. The older they get, the less likely they are to succeed in the NFL. But I mean, maybe the COVID situation and all that kind of changed things in that. But I just keep watching. When I remember watching the University of Oregon games, and I remember them holding up signs for him, telling him what the defense is, and he didn't have to read the defense.
It's bad
So,
luck.
like, and maybe he can read a defense, and they just wanted to make it even easier for him. But if he has to have those signs, is he able to read the defense and then come to the NFL and read these schemes that are, disguised all the time? And is he going to be effective right away? So for me, I'm curious about how he can progress, but I won't be excited in year one because I just don't know if he has the tools all of the other tools to be, able to keep the Broncos, in contention or winning or exciting while he's learning all this stuff, as opposed to like Jaden Daniels, who can really can make moves with his legs, right? Like Josh Allen was like that. His rookie year was a terrible quarterback, but he was able to do stuff with his legs, which helped the team.
Won games, and it ultimately his legs helped him become a better passer. And the fact that defenses were so worried about containing the edge, almost as if you're running an option offense. When you look at a Lamar Jackson, when you look at what used to be a Lamar Jackson, what used to be a Josh Allen, those sorts of things, I'd be excited about Bo Nix. He's not my favorite quarterback. I have him over Michael Penix Jr. I do not like Michael Penix Jr. I don't like Caleb Williams. I define talent is talent, but I know who I like, who I don't like. I'd be happy that a quarterback goes in the first round. I seriously, man, I know that's pathetic, but I would be happy that they did the right thing by not taking a corner back, Mel Kiper Jr. Mike Edel coming in. He is Mike E, and he gets respect. A $10 super. Thank you so much, Mike. Hey, Luke and Tom, I heard a deal on Minnesota Sports Talk Radio, an interview with Rick Spielman, who used to be the general manager of the Vikings, and he claims that the Minnesota Vikings are going to overpay for JJ McCarthy. Mike, I heard the exact same thing, talking about Minnesota leapfrogging everybody again to go all the way up to what, 4? Where I want the Broncos to land with Arizona. I mean, I think that's why the Broncos have to get to 4. They're really fighting the Vikings. The Vikings could get there. I've seen some mocks at 6, right, where the New York Giants trade out. But what are your thoughts on the Vikings and JJ McCarthy? It seems like there's a lot of smoke there right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's another one that you got to be afraid of, jumping over you to go get him. And if they here's the thing with the Vikings, though, overpaying they had a pretty good quarterback, statistically speaking, for last several years, and they couldn't get over the hump. So now they're going to go try and draft a rookie QB that's unproven and like overpay and see if they could. That's what's going to
they had a boring quarterback. Let's not say productive. Let's just say boring. All right. And I know Scott's thrilled to be watching Kirk Cousins down there in Atlanta. But no, man, like you're right. He's a good quarterback. I can't take that away from Kirk Cousins. But if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, and I can see where Mike's coming here, and you're trying to put yourself in Skull, what do they call them? Skull Nation. They do the Skull. I don't know what they purple
Skull. I
don't know what they call themselves. Their little group. But it does make you wonder. Okay, yeah, we had Kirk Cousins. The playoff record with him. You know how he's a kind of an odd dude, but he's a good community guy. He's a good team guy. He seems like a very good man. You want something young, maybe. You want something flashy. You want somebody with a little bit of personality. You've been driving that Datsun all your life, right? You want to go test drive a Corvette, man. And that's what these interviews are. That's what these workouts are. Mike, I think you're really, really smart to monitor the Minnesota Vikings because I think the rest of Broncos country is. I feel like I get up every morning, Tom, and I'm looking on X and I see something about the Vikings. And I haven't seen a ton of other quarterbacks connected lately with the Minnesota Vikings. Usually there's 1 or 2 per team, and you wonder about them, just like the Broncos right now are being all over the quarterback board. But it has to make you wonder. Cody W. coming in. Thank you, Cody. A very generous $10 super. Thank you for joining Tom, Scott, and I. Sean is always going to have this team in the middle of the pack. even without an amazing quarterback, this is the only chance you're going to get a starting quarterback because this draft is so thick with good players. Can you hit on those good players is the big thing. And Cody's right to say that the pressure is on. I mean, I like Sean Payton, what he did last year. I think he did some good things. I think he had his hand in a lot of the poor things too. He's not being paid cheap dollars. He's got a big fat contract that the Broncos had to trade for with the New Orleans Saints. You've got a Walton-Penner ownership group that is paying out the wazoo for anything and everything for this team, from new turf fields at the practice facility to redoing the stadium. I mean, that's starting to become empty, that has been empty the last 7 consecutive losing seasons. So, Cody, you're exactly right. I mean, it's time. It is past time for the Broncos to get a starting quarterback. The last first-round quarterback that the Denver Broncos drafted, everyone hates to mention it because it didn't work out. It's horrible. It left us with a poor taste in our mouth. I think it ultimately scared John Elway off from ever drafting a first-round quarterback again. That man's name is Paxton Lynch.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's a couple reasons why I think Sean Payton has to get a quarterback in this draft. You hit it, Cody. There are some solid quarterback with potential in this draft. You're right. It's thick with it. But on the other, you also have to understand that if he goes with, if it's Stidham starting and that's his guy, and you and I saw him, he's not very good. That's a failure. Then they have to go back to the quarterback well next year in the draft. That's 3 seasons where Sean Payton is probably middle of the pack. Does he get a 4th? Because can he say, "Oh wait, I need 1 more year with this quarterback"? What if that's about, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I think it's this year or nothing. Like, they need to get it this year, and if it's a failure, then you go try and find it again. But this is I know you paid Sean Payton a lot, and I know he gave up a lot of draft picks and all of that. But this is still the NFL, where even legendary coaches like Bill Belichick are 3 years away from being fired, right? So
Pete Carroll just got I don't like Pete Carroll, but he's very accomplished, right? He just got the axe out there in Seattle. I mean, you're exactly,
and with a pretty good season. It wasn't even a miserable season. It was a pretty decent season. So yeah, they don't wait long. So that's why I think it's quarterback this year, unless something terrible happens in the draft and they don't even get close to getting their guy, right? And then they have to draft one later in the rounds.
I love just scanning the chat, and Broncos country cracks me up, man. You got Sammy McCurdy in here. Trade up to number 4 and draft a punter. We're just 1 punter away from the Super Bowl. And it reminds me of, man, what was the Marquise, what was his name? He was our punter. He came from the Raiders for a little bit.
Oh, King. Marquette
King. King. Do you remember the Denver Broncos quick and short relationship with Marquette King? I was actually there when him and D-Mac were freaking out at each other in training camp, throwing water bottles at each other. It's just craziness. Dennis Woods coming in here with a $5 super. Thank you, Dennis. Really appreciate you joining the show, man. Really appreciate your support. Maybe a dumb question. There's no such thing, Dennis, not on this show. If J.J. McCarthy is Sean Payton's guy, can a trade up to the number 4 pick be made with Arizona before the draft day, or does it need to be on draft day? Dennis, this is something Thomas and I like to debate, and I feel like we try to get into it every show because I'm paranoid about it, Tom. I'm scared. Yeah. I'm scared that someone's going to get a deal done with Arizona right before the draft. Talk to me about the pros and the cons. What would you do if you're Sean Payton? Because if it's me, I would try to lock into that number 4 pick. I think that's what the Broncos are doing. I think that's what the Vikings are doing. That could be what the Raiders are trying to do. If you're the Arizona Cardinals, there's no way you make that deal. You lose a lot of leverage if you make that deal now, as opposed to on draft day when all the pressure is really on.
Well, I think from my perspective, you don't have to do it now because Arizona is going to call other teams that they know are interested, right? So if someone's going to make a deal, they're going to get on the phone and be like, "Hey, Denver, we've got this going on. We're going to make the deal, but hey, can you sweeten that?" So I don't think they would miss out if they didn't do it now. But for me, it's like on draft day, if everything falls completely awry in the first 3 picks, you're not going to trade up to 4 because you're not getting anybody you want, right?
Good point.
I think you've got to kind of wait Now, if you're trading up to number 1 or number 2, that's a different story because then you're guaranteed that you're getting your guy. But at 4, you're not. And so I just don't see the necessity of doing it now. And I think that there'll be a lot of back and forth with all the teams to figure out who's giving them the best deal. And that could happen before, or they're not just going to take the deal and not try and get a sweeter deal from someone else.
It makes me wonder the last time that happened, now that we're talking about it. So, Devin, it's not a stupid question at all. We debate this all the time. I mean, I wonder when the last time was a team traded up to get into the top 5 before the draft. I mean, these things typically, they feel like they happen at the start of free agency. I don't know, trade debt. I don't know, man. Like, not just
Trey
in
Lance,
the 2-week lull.
Trey Lance, they traded before the draft to get to 3 for him, I believe. But that was more that was the situation where they knew one of those 3 guys that they wanted were going to be there, right? So they traded up to 3. I think that happened before the draft day. I didn't think it happened on draft, but I could be wrong. But I don't ever remember
maybe a couple days before, like exactly.
Close, but not 2 weeks remember it happening. 4 or 5, someone trading up to 4 or 5, and when it's just too much of a risk that your guy's not going to be there.
It's almost just like that's not the way business is done in the NFL. I can't explain it, right? Because I don't know. I've never been in a war room. I don't know how these phone calls work. I can guess, I can surmise, I can talk to people that have been, friends of those sorts of things. But you're exactly right, Tom. It's all speculation at this point, and we're just trying to do our best to get there. I don't know, man. I mean, you look back at some of these drafts and saying, I remember saying, man, this is a quarterback heavy draft. This is a quarterback heavy draft. And you look at where these guys are now, or lack thereof. I mean, fighting for second contracts. You think about the Mac Jones of the world, Trevor Lawrence. What are we doing here? Trey Lance. I mean, are we going to have a career resurgence with the Dallas Cowboys because they don't know what the hell they're doing with Dak Prescott? I mean, these sorts of things, these are valid concerns, and it's so important to be students of history rather than slaves of history. Steven Eichenbaum coming in here. What's up, Steven? Thank you so much for supporting in the show and joining MHI. The Broncos need to give up every draft pick to get Drake May. Rookies suck for about 2 years, so we are better building in free agency because we're rich. And Steven, I like it, man. I like it when folks get up here and call their shots. Now, I wanted to get to this point, and thank you, Scott, for this timely comment, man. What are your thoughts on Drake May?
Me?
Yeah. Talk to me about Drake May. Steven likes Drake May.
He's got a lot of tools, but there's still questions about him as well. There's a question mark. There's no sure thing, but I think Drake May would be a great pickup. I think he'd be exciting. I think he's got the ability to move around with his legs more than people think. He's really athletic. I think it could be, I'm not comparing it, could be a Josh Allen situation where he helps the team in many ways, in tangible ways, while he's still kind of learning the NFL game. I think he's got all the tools. But again, like I said, out of all the 6 go in the first round, there's probably 2 of them are going to be great players, and there might be a starter out of there and a couple busts, right? So who's that going to be? I don't know.
Caleb Williams, he's going to be a bust.
I do not like giving right now all your draft picks.
Bust.
Like the Ricky Williams thing. The reason why I don't like it is because you have to have those young players to fill in as your older players start to go into free agency. And if you don't have that, your depth is terrible for a long time, and you need depth in the NFL. So if you can trade some of the picks, fine. All of your picks, that I think is just too many. And Mike Ditka learned the hard way when he did that for Ricky Williams, because that wasn't one player that got him over the hump and he was gone.
I'll never forget being a little kid, subscribing to SI and seeing that cover. I still remember that cover of Ricky in the wedding dress, and then Coach Ditka, they're back to back, and he's in the groom era. Man, just some images, right? You just never forget. I'm proud to say that was part of my childhood, folks. Mike Edel, coming back again, man. Really appreciate that. $10 super. You've been super active tonight, and we appreciate your support. I'm sorry I missed you, Scott. Great show, guys. Minnesota never appreciated Kirk Cousins. I also think Sean Payton having a relationship with Arizona's GM will ultimately help the Denver Broncos. Mike, you're bringing up some really good points tonight, and let's give credit to where credit's due. Broncos country asking some really good questions, coming in here with some really good scenarios, calling their shots. Tom, you called your shot. You were right, by the way. Scott did that homework. 1 month before the draft. There it is. Ricky Williams and Mike Ditka. There it is. That is why you do not trade away anything and everything. Yeah. A lot like what the Herschel Walker deal. These things have happened before. And if you're Sean Payton, man, this makes me laugh. I just take this down, Scott. You're gonna ruin. I can't go any further because I'm distracted.
I just have one thing to throw out there about Arizona. All right. I think they're willing to make a deal, and it's the most logical thing. But is Arizona? I know they're kind of stuck with him with that contract, but are they stuck? Are they so stuck with their with Kyler Murray that they're not willing to take one of the top quarterbacks that fall to him? Like, I mean, I know, but they we just saw it happen with Russell Wilson. Contract be damned, they got rid of him. Kyle Murray came in with Cliff Kingsbury, and that was kind of like a package deal almost. And are they willing to trade out of there to get draft picks if, say, one of those quarterbacks that they're like, this is our top rated guy, somehow falls to them? Are they going to make that trade and then just say, you know what, damn it, we'll eat the cap and we're going to go with this young guy? I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're sold. I mean, Kyler Murray to me is not one of those quarterbacks that you just like, oh, we're not drafting a quarterback. He's not one of those guys.
Well, to your point, Tom, damn you for this, because I was thinking that this could be a real good possibility, and maybe it is, but you're right. What if Arizona wants to kick the wheels and they fall in love with a guy? I mean, that's a scenario I haven't even considered. I hope that's being talked about over there at Broncos HQ, but they've done that before. The Cardinals. Who was the slappy that they draft? Josh Rosen. Right? Yep. So they've literally done it, and they traded him and then got Kyler Murray, right? Yep. I mean, so now Kyler Murray, Josh Rosen, two different quarterbacks. I'm not a fan of Kyler Murray either, but you're exactly right. I mean, what if you see a crazy kind of draft day trade, something like that? I mean, man, you have got to be. I hope everybody is preparing for those break glass in case of emergency scenarios, because I recently wrote an article up, and I'm not proud to say, but hey, this Broncos country, anything is possible. Spencer Rattler raved about his meetings with Sean Payton and his quarterback quiz. I'm not really super high on a Spencer Rattler. That's not going to excite me in the second or the third round. I mean, Drake May, I'm interested in Drake May. I'm curious. I was watching Mark Schlereth's analysis on Drake May, the same Mark Schlereth that was wearing one of Thomas Hall's Tom Nail into the Hall of Fame hoodie the other day. I was watching his podcast, and he was explaining why he had some concerns with Drake May. And he said, basically, he can do some really exciting things very well, but it's the boring things that he leaves you wondering why. Why aren't you doing all the little boring things exceptionally well? Not just the big splash plays. You could probably find situations like that with every potential first-round quarterback in this draft. Cecil Lammey came on a few months ago down at the Senior Bowl and told us the Broncos really liked Michael Pratt a lot. They've been talking to him, quarterback out of Tulane. I mean, anything's possible. A Spencer Rattler, Tulane, you trade up, or Pratt, you trade up, you trade back. Who knows? DTR coming in here, $10 super. Evening MHH fans, and welcome back, Thomas Scott Kennedy. Has Jaden Daniels' draft stock been affected by the bursa sack photo and elbow inflammation concerns? I think Jaden Daniels' draft stock is only going up. I mean, I thought it was really interesting around the combine. It sounded like Jaden Daniels didn't want to go to New England. Now it seems like he's cool going wherever he wants. Now it sounded like he has a very good agent. I saw they put out something just this week where it said Jaden's just focused on wherever he is going to be drafted. He wants to succeed. He wants to do well. I like that attitude a lot compared to a Caleb Williams, right? And I can't wait to see the Chicago Bears make the same mistake twice. They thought Justin Fields was bad. Just wait.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike Caleb Williams as much as you do, but again, question marks. Not a generational talent. I mean, he can do a lot of great things. Like I said before on it earlier, if he goes to a team that can't win, does he have this psychological makeup to get past that and still be a good quarterback down there? That's what scares me about Caleb Williams the most, because, and I'm not, everybody cries. Don't get me wrong. Like,
oh, I don't care about the
I'm not knocking him,
the
but it
ears,
was
the nail
because he
polish.
lost.
Right.
It was because he
Period.
lost. And that just makes me think, gosh, if he goes to the Bears and they can't win and they continue to lose all season, is that going to affect him? So, I mean, the game is mental, man. It's a as much mental game as it is physical in many, especially for a quarterback. That's what bothers me about Caleb Williams. I think if he went to a good team who could win and he could showcase his talents and everything was fine, I think he'd be a fine quarterback. I just, losing team just might not be the place for him to be. And that's where he's going to be drafted, is by a team that's not winning.
That sucks. Well, and that's just it, man. And the expectations to win are going to be there. And look, you're exactly right. And I appreciate you saying something. I don't care if he paints his nails. I don't care what haircut he's got. I don't care what music he listens to. Can you represent the organization that you're going to be drafted to in a professional fashion? Can you put that organization on your back and carry them into the new era of winning and championship football? Hell, playoff contention. Can you do that, Caleb Williams? I have questions. I don't know that he has the maturity to do it. I don't know that he has the talent to do it. I think so many times we all fall in love, and I'm guilty of it too. I'm the same guy that loved Zach Wilson, all right? So I could be completely wrong on Caleb Williams. I just don't know. But that makes this exciting. That makes this nerve-wracking. The NFL draft is less than 2 weeks away. We're reacting to Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft. You could read about it at milehighhuddle.com. He has the Broncos going cornerback. That's right, corner, as in Pat Surtain gets a new running mate, Quinion Mitchell. Let us know what you guys think about that in the chat. Unique Prepping coming in here with a very generous $5 super. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just giving love to Luke, Tom, and Scott. Unique Prepping, we really appreciate that, man. Thank you guys so much. This is always such a fun show. I love getting into it. And Cody W. circling back around. I wouldn't trade now. You have that chance that 1 through 3, quarterbacks 4 through 5, and then a wide receiver. You could potentially be sitting at 6 with JJ and Bo still on the boards. Wouldn't think you'd have to give that much to get to 6. Cody, you're going to have to give everything. Man, these teams have the Broncos, the Vikings, and the Raiders by the short hairs. If you're a team like Arizona, if you're a team like the Giants, you know which teams want to move up. You're at those quarterback pro days. You're bringing these guys into the building. Those agents are talking to you. You're talking to them. There is no way, Cody, respectfully, there's no way that you could sell to me that the Broncos can get a deal to draft to their quarterback in the top 10.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers. You can go look at it. The tool I built, probability. The teams give up so much more value to move up in the first round than they receive. I mean, by far, they are going to demand way more than what it's worth, because that's the way it's been. I mean, if you look at the actual probability of finding an elite player, to move up to 6, they could probably give up their 12 and another later round first, and that'd be an equivalent. But there's no way a team's going to do that. They, like you said, they know they're going to take a king's ransom to get just to 6 at this point. If one of those quarterbacks falls, right? If one of those quarterbacks falls, then there are going to be 3 teams at least calling about that pick, and it's just going to drive the price up, and it's going to be ridiculous, and it's going to be painful, and they're going to lose a ton of value to go get that quarterback, but they're probably going to do it.
It's a risk. Is it a risk that Sean Payton is willing to take? I think so. Now, I feel fairly confident, Thomas. I think you feel fairly confident that we believe Sean Payton will move up. Because when you talk about the Broncos moving up, make no mistake, it's Sean Payton's call. George is just there to support. The owners have fully empowered Sean Payton when they traded for him, when they gave him that fat contract, when they just handed over the keys to this organization. The biggest question, I don't know. You don't know. We're guessing JJ McCarthy. We don't know where and we don't know who, but that's why we're so excited. Michael Rinquillo, man, talking about excitement. This guy coming back in with the love. The Broncos will have a down year in 2024 before we have more money to spend in the 2025 NFL season for other players. And Mike is exactly right. He's making a further point that someone else already did tonight. Say you draft a rookie quarterback, you're trading away a lot of draft capital to go get them, right? It's not going to just be as easy as giving up Pat Surtain and Garrett Bowles. Hell, throw Cortland Sutton on there for the icing on the cake. It's going to be way more expensive than that. How do you supplement that rookie quarterback? Well, you figure out your cap deal. You're taking that $88 million dead hit in 2 seasons, right? Off the top of my head. You've got the capologist down there. You're going to have to pay. You have to pay for some O-linemen. You're going to have to pay for a tight end, and you're probably going to have to bring in some value wide receivers and keep it going.
And this is why I liked that they didn't make big splashes in free agency. That, to me, they seem like they went out and got players who are going to fill in depth because they know they're going to have to give up draft picks, and those rookies aren't going to grow into that depth. So they went out and got those players this year. Next year, you could probably make some bigger splashes. But I kind of like if their philosophy is that they're going to have to trade a king's ransom to go up and get a quarterback this year, they did a pretty decent job with the money they had of filling in areas with those players that you need to have. They're not stars. They're not big splashes. They're the depth players. They're spot starters, or they're good starters. They did a pretty good job so far this year in free agency. And so that was, I don't know, that maybe they're preparing for that now. Maybe they, like Lawrence said, they're right now, they're preparing for not having a lot of draft capital to fill in that depth.
My guy, speaking of depth, one of our depth players, our starters, one of our guys, Tea Time with Larry up in the house. What's up, Larry? Thanks for joining the show, brother. Do you guys really think this is a quarterback year? Last year, the last time that happened was 2018. Can this year even compare statistically? Lawrence, you're exactly right, man. It's really important that we look back and we evaluate these can't miss prospects, right? That we all talk about, that we all like, that we all think could be the answer. Maybe you compare some of those guys to guys in this draft, right? I haven't done it, but just kind of that'd be a fun exercise, right? Who does Drake May most look like? Who does Jaden Daniels look like, right? When you're talking about Baker Mayfield, the Josh Rosen, those sorts of things. It's interesting. But it's also nerve-wracking, man. I do think it's going to be a quarterback this year, Lawrence, because of what's happened. Sean Payton knew he was going to have a year with Russell Wilson. He figured that out very quickly that wasn't going to work. He rode. I can't believe I'm going to say he rode with him. He rode with Russell Wilson for as long as he could, until the wheels eventually fell off. So in year 2, do we just think that Sean Payton's going to sit idly by and do like Mel Kiper suggests and taking a fine cornerback at the number 12 pick? No, because what's that mean for year 3? Are you going to put all your chips in that you're going to draft Shedeur Sanders out of CU, right? He's right up the road. Great story. He's going to be highly coveted already by the Dallas Cowboys because Jerry Jones is all about that drama, right? Let's not even evaluate the prospect. The name. Let's do this. There's no way Sean Payton heads into year 3 looking for a quarterback. So that's why I feel, Lawrence, regardless of how I feel about the quarterbacks, you feel about the quarterbacks, Mel Kiper, Todd McShay, it's Sean Payton's plan to go draft a quarterback. Always has been.
And the writing's on the wall for it, really. I mean, they didn't go out and try and get a Kirk Cousins or anything. Not that they could really have afforded it, but their road was Stidham. They said we're riding with Stidham because they are going to draft a quarterback unless something crazy happens in the draft and they're gone and they can't move up or whatever. But from my perspective, they're going in on a quarterback this year. And that's it, because they don't have any other option. I mean, you can't tell me. I know Sean Payton liked Stidham or said he did, but you cannot tell me that he thinks Stidham is going to bring them more wins than they had last year. I just
No,
I don't
Gucci
think people can believe
Danucci
it.
is.
No.
The Gooch. Gucci Danucci, he's gonna rock with it. DTR coming in here, man. $5 super. Thank you, DTR. Mel Kiper needs to be summoned to this podcast and answer to Broncos Country Tribunal. Man, I absolutely love it. DTR, man. It's what's Mel Kiper doing, right? I know all the kids, the politics, all the stuff in the world. They love this term gaslighting, right? Gaslighting. I feel gaslit, Tom. I feel gaslit by Mel Kiper Jr. He's getting a response out of me, and it's driving me crazy, right? Because you look at Mel Kiper Jr. mocking cornerback Quinion Mitchell out of Toledo to the Broncos at number 12. And like Chad Jensen wrote over at milehighhuddle.com, it does make Broncos country scratch their head. Dennis Woods coming back in. Thank you, Dennis. Really appreciate that. Here's Dennis's trade scenario. Number 12, 2024 first-round pick, 2025 first-round pick, and Pat Surtain. Does that get the Broncos the number 4, Tom?
I think it should. I think you should trade PS. If you're gonna trade PS2, you trade him for draft picks and then you package up a deal. Because I think giving him away in the scenario is going to get less value for him than if you say, "Hey, we're going to trade Pat Surtain for some draft picks." You're going to probably get more value, and then you can say, "Okay, here are these 3 picks that we're packaging up, and we probably still have an extra one from that trade." I think that would be selling it short, but I think someone would jump on it. I think Arizona would take that deal.
They would, but when Minnesota is willing to give up everything else,
yeah,
3 number 1s
Yep.
and a number 2 for next year. I mean, if you're Arizona, as much as Pat Surtain's a great cornerback, no doubt, you would be fools not to take that deal. I mean, Dennis, you're right. That's a rich deal. I'm not trying to poo-poo it. I wish it would work. I hope it could work. Maybe it will work. It just seems like when you've got the Raiders and the Vikings and the Broncos all trying to move up, and there are already 3 quarterback teams, needy teams in the top 3. Man, that market, it's going to be fast and furious. David Yonkin coming back in. Thank you for all the support, David. Really appreciate that. Just to say hi, Mel changes his mind every day. So tomorrow we will be drafting a placeholder. Yeah, Mel has reserved the right to flip-flop every now and again. Hey, Tom?
Well, and the other thing you have to understand is Mel Kiper and all these other draft gurus,
nice, Dave.
They're selling something to read. Oh, you know what I mean? They're not trying to be right. They're creating controversy. So for him to say corner, he either didn't do his research or he's like, this is going to make Broncos country talk about this draft, and more people are going to read, more people are going to talk about Mel Kiper Jr. And so, I mean, that's the thick and thin of it. Is he's trying to sell content, basically. I know he works for ESPN, but he wants people to be talking about Mel Kiper. So there'll probably be some other team that's sitting on a podcast like you and I, some other team going, guess what Mel Kiper said next week when he's
it works.
Somebody else in a spot.
It works. He's very good at his job. Yeah. And I like to tell folks too, whether it be, man, I hate that guy on TV, or I can't stand that guy on the radio, or that guy's podcast. Maybe they're getting the desired effect. If you're still watching and you don't like them, maybe they're actually doing their job right. Now, I can't stand it in sports media when people take the pro wrestling angle. What do I mean by that? I'm just going to be a hater to be a hater. I'm going to be a stick in the mud. I'm always against the grain. Blah, 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 blah. Happens all the time. It's phasing out a little bit in 2024. I mean, used to work a lot when you just had the old sports radio days, but times, kids, they are a changing. Speaking of time, Lawrence coming back in. What's up, Larry? Tea time coming in hot. If the Broncos drafted Shedeur Sanders, would Coach Prime be coming with him? That's an interesting conversation, Lawrence, because Dion has always said, right, I'm out on the NFL. I'm out on the NFL. Well, what about when Shedeur goes? What about, your other son, Travis, right? Or what about Shiloh? Everybody forgets about Shiloh. I don't think that's going to happen. Sean Payton's locked in. The Walton-Penner ownership group made a huge financial commitment. They don't want this to be coaching turnover over and over again. Rob just talked about it. Rob Walton at the owners' meetings. I wrote about it at milehighhuddle.com. He's a good businessman. It would be bad business to get rid of Sean Payton prematurely.
Well, here's an interesting conspiracy theory for you. When I was watching Schlereth Stinkin' Truth podcast while he was wearing my Tom Nalen for the Hall of Fame shirt,
All right.
they were talking about the rumor of Jerry Jones concocting a plan to draft Shador and bring Coach Prime in as his coach, which I'm not putting anything past Jerry Jones. That guy will do anything. But guess what? So if the Broncos miss out on quarterback this year, and that happens, Dak Prescott now becomes the most available quarterback in the NFL.
Great. Dak Prescott conversation again. It feels like we're always here because we're always looking for a quarterback. I mean, man, you gaslighting me like Mel Kiper is, right? The last 30 seconds, we're up against it. Now you're getting me all fired up. Lawrence coming in. They'll just use it as a tax write-off, right? I mean, surely those guys over there at Broncos HQ know their way around $1. Just like you guys, Broncos country, thank you so much for all of your support. A very live and fun show tonight. It's always cathartic for me. I need these Wednesday nights, and I'm happy to have you back, Tom.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. It's not in my normal circumstances. I'm actually in my in-laws' basement, but with the red.
You're at Arrowhead. You're at Arrowhead right now trying to figure out, we've got a Broncos spy in Arrowhead trying to figure out if the team's going to relocate and all that fun sort of deal.
Yeah.
No, man, it's been good to have you back. I'm glad that you are finally sort of done moving, right? We're halfway done moving. We're figuring out other things now. Broncos country, stay tuned for more Broncos coverage. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Check out Chad's story on Mel Kiper Jr. and who he mocked to the Denver Broncos at pick number 12. Head on over on X and follow Tom at Thomas Hall NFL. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Give our pod a follow as well at MHI_pod. We'd really appreciate it. Broncos country, here we go. Quarterback, not cornerback, Mel. This is the way.
This is the way.